One day, a mentor gave me a piece of advice that made absolutely no sense to me. She said, Mike, if you want to sell more products, stop talking about your products.
What?
At the time, I thought that was just ridiculous. I mean, what exactly was I supposed to talk about? The weather? My favorite sandwich? The emotional journey of owning a company? We had products. We wanted people to buy those products. So naturally, our ads talked about those products. Features, specifications, benefits, competitive comparisons, awards, accolades, and every possible reason we thought we were better than anyone else. Basically, we were standing in the marketplace with a megaphone yelling, "Look at us. We are amazing." And honestly, we were very committed to that yelling. Welcome to Mike's Musings. This is a series where I share business lessons, best practices, and observations from my own experience building and running a company. Today, I want to talk about marketing. More specifically, I want to talk about the kind of marketing I used to do, why it eventually made me cringe, and why that mentor was right when she told me, if you want to sell more products, stop talking about your products. In the early days of my business, we took advertising to the next level. And by the next level, I don't mean necessarily better. I mean louder, more obnoxious, more braggadocious, more chest thumping, and more of that classic young company energy where you're trying to convince the market you're important while quietly hoping no one notices you're still trying to figure things out. Looking back, I can clearly see that many of our ads were cringeworthy. At the time, of course, I thought they were brilliant. That's one of the dangerous things about confidence. It often shows up before wisdom has had a chance to review the copy. We entered our equipment into numerous industry award contests. Over the years, we won 46 awards. 46. And every award gave us another opportunity to run an ad telling the world we had won another award. The first award generated a pretty straightforward ad. We showed the award, talked about the product, and explained why we were proud of it. Then we won a second award. So naturally, we called that ad Double Feature. The third award became Triple Crown, then came 4 aces, 5 aces, the Magnificent 7, Baker's Dozen, Sweet 16, Blackjack, and on it went. By the time you get to award number 46, you're not really advertising anymore. You're just counting loudly in public. One day, after we received award number 46, an industry colleague stopped by our trade show booth and congratulated me. He then asked, how much did it cost to purchase an award? That one stung. But he wasn't entirely wrong to ask. Over the years, our awards had gone from valuable accolade status to something closer to pariah status. Instead of building credibility, they started attracting scrutiny, skepticism, and doubt over the entire awards process. That's the problem with overusing any form of credibility. At first, it validates you, then it defines you, then it starts to work against you. It's like cologne. A little bit can help, but too much makes people leave the elevator. And we had bathed in it. For the first couple of decades, our marketing strategy was built around being seen, being noticed, being loud, and being memorable. We advertised heavily. We exhibited constantly. Our biggest trade show took place in Anaheim, California, and each year we filled the booth with our equipment offerings. But apparently, equipment wasn't enough. So we added eye candy, magicians, video games, surfboards, and one year, the now famous, or maybe infamous, waterfall. This waterfall was 30 feet wide and 15 feet tall. And instead of sheets of water pouring down from the heavens, water came out of thousands of small nozzles located at the top of the structure. The system could create words and images that appeared to fall from the sky. It was truly mesmerizing. It was also, in hindsight, a spectacularly expensive way to distract people from the thing we were actually trying to sell. Our machines were staged in front of the waterfall. To make logistics easier, we had equipped all of our machines with wheels. About an hour before the show opened on the first day, a gentleman came by the booth. He stopped and looked at the waterfall. He was mesmerized. He told me he had never seen anything like it and asked if he could take a photograph of the waterfall so he could show his team back at the office. Feeling quite proud of myself, I gave him permission. Of course he could take a picture. This was exactly the kind of reaction we wanted, or so I thought. Before he took the first photograph, he noticed that our equipment was on wheels. Then he politely asked if we could move the equipment out of the way so he could get a better picture of the waterfall. That's when it hit me. We don't sell waterfalls. Our equipment was the distraction. The waterfall was the star. Sometimes the business gods give you a subtle message, and sometimes they hit you in the face with a 2x4. That was my 2x4 moment. There I was, standing in the middle of a trade show booth filled with equipment we had spent years designing, engineering, building, and improving. And a visitor wanted us to move it out of the way so he could take a better picture of our marketing gimmick. That is not marketing success. That's a cry for help with theatrical lighting. At that moment, I realized we'd become nothing more than just high-tech carnies. We were drawing crowds, creating noise, and generating attention, but attention isn't the same as understanding. Traffic isn't the same as trust. A crowd is not the same as a customer. And even I was getting tired of the sound of our own voice. Shortly after the show ended, we made a major decision. We stopped. We canceled the balance of our advertising contracts. We terminated our agreements with the trade shows scheduled for the rest of the year. And we began asking a much harder question. What were we really in business for? Were we in business to be loud? Were we in business to win awards? Were we in business to create booth traffic? Were we in business to impress ourselves? And we were impressing ourselves. Or were we in business to solve a real problem for our customers? That's when my mentor's advice finally started to make sense. If you want to sell more products, stop talking about your products. For a long time, that sounded backwards to me. Our ads talked about specifications, features, benefits, competitive comparisons, award status, and every other self-aggrandizing accolade we could cram onto the page. The problem was that our customers didn't wake up in the morning wishing they could read more about our product specifications. They woke up with problems, technical problems, reliability problems, process problems, failures they didn't fully understand, risks they were trying to reduce, questions they didn't know how to answer. Our product solved a very specific issue within our industry. We understood the issue. We understood the causes. We understood the mitigation techniques. We understood how our equipment fit into the larger reliability picture. But many customers didn't understand what was causing their problems, and our ads weren't helping them make that connection. We were talking about the solution before they fully understood the problem. That is a common marketing mistake. We assume the customer is already standing where we are. They aren't. They're standing where they are. And if they don't understand the problem the way we understand the problem, our product claims may not matter yet. That realization changed everything. We immediately switched our marketing strategy to education. Every trade show has 2 events happening at the same time. Downstairs is the expo floor. That's where exhibitors show products, scan badges, hand out brochures, display machines, and pray quietly that someone with purchasing authority walks into the booth. Upstairs is the conference. That's where the learning happens. That's where people attend technical sessions, hear from subject matter experts, compare ideas, ask questions, and try to understand what's changing in the industry. For years, we had focused on the downstairs, the booth, the display, the noise, the spectacle, the badge scans, and the please love us energy that comes with trade show exhibiting. But after that waterfall moment, I started focusing upstairs. While we no longer exhibited on the expo floor, I still went to virtually every trade show I could. But instead of standing in a booth talking about our products, I became part of the conference schedule. I spoke about the technical issues facing our industry. I talked about best practice mitigation techniques. I talked about reliability, process control, why problems occur, and how companies can reduce risk. What I didn't talk about was our products. No specifications, no sales pitch, no come see us at booth, whatever. No, our machine is better than their machine because the brochure says so. Just education. At the same time, I started writing technical papers for trade magazines and journals. We started producing live, non-commercial workshops around the world focused on reliability and best practices. I started a podcast on the subject of reliability, interviewing subject matter experts across a wide spectrum of specialties within our industry. Over time, those efforts helped us build authority in our space. And when you build real authority, you become an influencer. No, not a TikTok twerking celebrity-based influencer, an authority-based influencer. There is a difference. One is built on attention, the other is built on trust. We concentrated on this strategy for about 10 years straight. Today, we exhibit at one trade show a year. Our booth is modest. There are no magicians, no video games, no surfboards, no waterfalls, no spectacle. No one has ever asked us to move our equipment out of the way so they can photograph the carpet. And we haven't run an ad in well over a decade. And our sales didn't decline. They soared. Now, come on, were we the first people to discover this philosophy? It felt like it, but absolutely not. Many great brands have understood this for a long time. Consider Nike. Nike manufactures and sells shoes, but their ads don't focus on shoe specifications. They don't spend all their time or any time talking about stitching, rubber compounds, foam density, or arch support. They celebrate athleticism. They connect with aspiration. They make the customer feel something bigger than the product. The same can be said for earlier Apple ads. Today, Apple has drifted closer to conventional product advertising in some ways, but their original strategy was not just about processors, memory, or screen resolution. They connected with creators, artists, thinkers, and people who saw themselves as different, like in this ad from 1997.
Here's to the crazy ones, the rebels, the troublemakers, the ones who see things differently. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
They weren't just selling machines, they were selling identity. Now, my company wasn't Nike, and it certainly wasn't Apple. We were selling industrial equipment to the electronics assembly industry. And let's be honest, no one was putting our machine in a commercial with a marathon runner and inspirational music in the background. But the principle still applied. Stop leading with the product. Lead with the problem. Lead with the customer. Lead with the understanding. Lead with value. One of my favorite marketing stories comes from Coca-Cola. In the early 1930s, Coca-Cola had strong summer sales, but weaker winter sales. And of course, that makes sense. A cold Coca-Cola is an easy sell on a hot summer day. But it's a little harder to sell refreshment when people are wearing coats and thinking more about fireplaces. So Coca-Cola needed to connect the product to winter in an entirely new way. Before 1931, Santa Claus had been depicted in many different ways, including a tall, gaunt man, an elf-like figure, and in some versions, even a slightly scary character. His attire was frequently brown or green. In 1931, Coca-Cola commissioned illustrator Haddon Sundblom to paint Santa for Christmas advertisements. Those paintings help establish Santa as a warm, happy human character with rosy cheeks, a white beard, twinkling eyes, laughter lines, and a Coca-Cola red attire. And to this day, virtually the entire world now has Coca-Cola's depiction of Santa Claus in their mind. What's interesting is what Coca-Cola didn't do. They didn't build the campaign around technical product claims. They didn't say, now with improved bubbles. They didn't say, more refreshing than competing beverages by a statistically significant margin. They didn't list the ingredients. They didn't explain the taste. They created a warm, emotional, almost Hallmark card version of Christmas. They connected Coca-Cola with a feeling, a season, nostalgia, tradition, and a story people wanted to hear. Just think about this for a second. If Pepsi had come up with that idea, we may know Santa today by his blue attire. That is conscious marketing. It's not manipulation. It's not noise. It's not chest thumping. It's understanding what the customer cares about and connecting with that at a deeper level. In our case, conscious marketing meant education. Our customers weren't trying to buy a machine. They were trying to solve a reliability problem. They were trying to reduce failures. They were trying to protect their customers. They were trying to understand why assemblies failed in the field after passing tests in the factory. They were trying to make better decisions. So we helped them understand the problem. And when they understood the problem, they were in a better position to understand the solution. That's why I believe educated people make educated choices. When we ran obnoxious, chest-thumping ads, we attracted customers who identified with that type of advertising. Many of them demanded discounts. Many paid late. Some failed to maintain their equipment. They treated the sale purely as transactional. Looking back, we were probably attracting the customers our marketing deserved. That's not very fun to admit, but it's true. William Makepeace Thackeray wrote in Vanity Fair in 1847, "The world is a looking glass and gives back to every man the reflection of his own face." When your marketing is loud, boastful, and transactional, you often attract people looking for a transaction. When we shifted to conscious marketing, the relationship changed. We started attracting a different kind of customer, a more thoughtful customer, a more technical customer, a more engaged customer, a customer who cared about reliability, best practices, process control, and long-term outcomes. Our sales became less transactional and more relational. We weren't just selling equipment anymore. We were part of a larger conversation. And that's the real lesson. Marketing isn't just about what you say about your products. Marketing is what you teach. It's what you stand for. It's the problems you help people understand. It's the truth you build before the customer ever asks for a quote. For years, I thought marketing meant being louder than the competition. Now I think marketing means being more useful than the competition. And that's a very different strategy. Noise can attract attention. Gimmicks can create traffic. Awards can create temporary credibility. But authority creates trust. And trust is what lasts. So, if you're building a company, ask yourself a few uncomfortable questions. Are you educating the market, or are you just promoting yourself? Are you helping customers understand their problems, or are you rushing them toward a solution? Are you building authority, or are you building a louder booth? Are people coming to you because they trust your knowledge, or because you created a spectacle? And perhaps most importantly, if someone walked into your trade show booth, would they remember your product? Or would they ask you to move it out of the way so they could get a better photograph of the waterfall? That's today's Mike's Musings. If you want to sell more products, stop talking about your products. Start talking about your customer's problem. Start teaching, start helping, start building trust, start creating value, because educated people make educated choices. And when you become the company that helps them understand, you have a much better chance of becoming the company they choose. I hope you found this episode helpful. For more business tips, interviews with company founders, and much more, subscribe to the Reluctant Entrepreneur Podcast. To learn more about the podcast, visit reluctantentrepreneurpodcast.com. Thank you all so much for being here. I'll see you again on the next episode.